Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we'll be watching a movie titled Vertical Limit, which was released back in the year 2000. Vertical Limit is an American survival thriller film. The film is based on Mount K2, where a brother wants to save the life of his sister. He's on a time crunch with only 36 hours in his hands, and there's a strong possibility that he might get himself killed in the rescue mission. So let's get started. Turn on the subtitles and spoilers ahead. The movie starts with 5 individuals climbing Monument Valley. This mountain is extremely tall and dangerous to climb. Out of them, 3 are professional climbers belonging to an adventurous family. They are 2 siblings, Peter and Annie Garrett, along with their father Royce. The other 2 are amateur climbers. As they reach a dangerous height, Royce, who's a caring father, asks his son Peter to check the safety gear of his sister. Suddenly, the 2 unprofessional climbers from the top lose their balance and fall towards them. The ropes of the amateurs get hooked on Royce's body, pulling him down with them. The weight also pulls down Peter as all 5 of them are tied together by a single rope, due to which all of them start falling one by one. Luckily, Annie's cam gets attached to the mountain wall, saving them from the fall, at least for a while. The cam cannot support her weight for long, as it's slowly getting unattached. As a result, the amateurs fall to their death. Now only the Garrett family remain, and Royce forces Peter to cut him loose in order to save his children. The rope can only hold the weight of 2 people, and Royce wants to make sure that his son and daughter remain alive. At first, Peter and Annie refuse to do so since they don't want to lose their father. But at their father's strong persistence, Peter cuts the rope, leading to their father's death. 3 years after the tragic incident, we see that Peter is retired from climbing. He's now a National Geographic photographer, but Annie has become a renowned climber. During Peter's work at the National Geographic, he finds out that a team is headed back to climb Mount K2. K2 is the world's 2nd tallest mountain and is located in Pakistan. Peter's aware that his sister Annie is a part of this team, and she's become a famous climber at the time. He then goes to meet his sister and finally reunites with her after a long time. Turns out that their relationship got strained after the passing of their father, as Annie blames Peter for their father's death. Peter gladly congratulates her for being part of the expedition team and utters that their dad would be proud of her. The expedition is funded by a wealthy industrialist, Elliot Vaughn. Elliot has recently bought an airline. On Wednesday, when his team will be on top of Mount K2, the first flight of his airline will take off from there. Elliot wishes to pay salute to this flight, due to which he has arranged this climbing mission. Their team includes Annie, Vaughn, renowned climber Tom McLaren, mountaineer Ali Nazir, and 1 other. The night before the climbing mission, Elliot throws a good luck party for their expedition. Suddenly, the foremost K2 expert called Wick arrives at the party. He warns Elliot about the risky weather during the expedition, which could lead to their death. In response, Elliot calls upon the weather expert, who declares that there's a low percentage of bad weather for the next 2 months. Wick then vaguely asks Elliot about the person in charge of this expedition, who decides who will live and who will die in the team. Elliot seemingly disregards the question and calls upon Tom, the assigned leader for the expedition. Wick then leaves from there. He shaves his beard and starts climbing K2. The morning comes and the expedition team departs from the base camp for their climb. Soon after, the team successfully lands at their point of departure, 26,000 feet above the ground, heading to the summit. Along their way, Tom receives a warning through radio about possibly dangerous weather incoming, so he decides to stop the climb. But Elliot, being selfish, says that if it gets worse, they'll shelter under the cliffs. Tom then states the possibility of the weather changing. He insists that as the leader of the climb, he will not compromise their safety for a marketing campaign. In response, Elliot encourages him to continue since reaching the top would be a life statement for him. Annie agrees, so they keep going. Peter, who's at the base camp, notices that the storm is coming to the expedition's location. On the radio, he warns Tom about the bad weather. He tells them that they need to go back immediately. Upon receiving the warning, Tom decides to cancel the expedition, but Elliot, being selfish, persists in continuing. As Tom insists on going back or else they'll die, the air mass and ice drizzle disturb their ideal escapade. When Annie decides to use an axe, a part of the Iceland breaks, causing her to fall into a deep pit. Because of the rope connecting the 5 of them, all are inevitably pulled by Annie. Unfortunately, 2 of them fall to their death due to a sudden avalanche. Now, Annie is left with Elliot and injured Rob. All 3 of them get trapped in the pit as the opening of it gets covered with snow completely. They cannot communicate with the base camp as there are no radio signals in the pit. Meanwhile, the base camp is also trying their best to communicate with them, but to no avail. Peter then realizes that they can use Morse code to communicate with them, even with the low signal. Fortunately, Annie understands the Morse code from the radio and answers back, confirming that the three of them are still alive. Annie informs the team that they're stuck in the crevice, but the station team is hesitant to rescue them since they need someone to climb the difficult trails of K2 Mountain. They need to climb and find the three as quickly as possible since the three of them have limited supplies of only 36 hours. There are also rocks and ice that block the crevice. Despite the challenges, Peter is determined to save his sister. He then goes to the Pakistani military base to ask the colonel for explosives to blast the rock and ice blockage. They hand him over nitroglycerin bombs that help in getting rid of the rocks and ice in the way. That night, Peter strategizes a fast climb, but it requires 6 individuals to go up there. However, not everyone steps forward to volunteer since the journey is really dangerous and life-threatening. But when the chief analyst of Elliot's company promises the reward of $500,000 for those who'll join, a team is formed. Soon, Peter and the commander who planned the rescue mission realize that they cannot reach the location in time, so they plan to seek help from that mountain guy Wick, who is the fastest K2 climber. The commander then reveals that Wick climbed K2 Mountain alone years ago to find his mountain guide wife, who got lost during a tragic expedition. He was able to save the other 3 survivors, but he never found his wife. During that rescue operation, Wick lost his feet and fingers too, so he spent his whole life in K2 trying to find her and hence knows each and every spot of that mountain. They then take off from the base camp, heading to Wick's place to convince him to help them. At first, Wick refuses to join, but he later changes his mind upon knowing that there's a $500,000 reward. Wick instructs them on their rescue plan and demands to be the leader of that rescue mission. Back in the chamber, Annie informs the two that a rescue team is coming to save them. Elliot instructs them that the rescue might take long and that they only have 22 hours left. Tom is almost dying from the freezing condition, and all 3 of them are barely able to breathe due to a lack of oxygen. To survive the freezing condition, the 3 of them have medicine to help them breathe. Among them, Tom is badly injured and he opens up his medical bag to get help. Annie tries to give him the medicine to save him, but Elliot refuses, believing that it's a waste to give it to Tom since he will inevitably die anyway. However, Annie, being a generous person, injects Tom with her share of the medicine. Despite the fact that Annie and Tom were on this expedition to help Elliot, he doesn't seem to care too much about anyone but himself. Meanwhile, after planning, the helicopter forces its limit to bring the rescue team to the highest point possible so that they can begin their journey in a spot nearer to the destination. They distribute themselves in pairs and everyone uses different paths to reach the crevice. Peter and Wick are together in this mission. Wick assures Peter that he did the right thing to cut his father's rope to save himself and his sister. He says that if Royce had a knife, he would have done it himself. Peter tells him that he's always felt guilty about his actions, which is why he left climbing, but today he's climbing just to save his sister. Wick informs Elliot over the radio about their arrival. Wick does not like Elliot at all, and he knows that he's a selfish guy. Then we see in the chamber, Annie is unable to breathe and starts coughing. Tom encourages the now sick Annie to get the medicine, but Elliot is against this as she's given her share of the medicine to Tom. To get more supplies for their survival, Annie suggests getting another backpack that's stuck at the top of the crevice, but Elliot refuses to bring her that. Despite her sickness, Annie bravely crosses to the other side to get the backpack. She opens the pack and finds a spare box of medicine. She immediately injects Tom with the medicine, but does not use it for herself. She thinks that it would be better to use the medicine on herself when things get worse. Meanwhile, we see one of the pairs of the rescue team, a man and a woman. The man's bag starts to slide down and he tries to chase it, but the tragedy officially starts. He and his bag continue to slide quickly, leaving them hanging from a cliff. The girl tries to help him while he's hanging, but the tension increases while the ice drops. Just when they're about to settle, the nitro falls from his bag, so they hurriedly climb and a big explosion takes place. The 2 of them survive, but just then the avalanche strikes and the guy dies there. The girl climbs up using her cam and soon reunites with Peter and Wick. Back at the military camp, the nitro explodes because of heat. Upon learning this information from the army, one more pair of the rescue operation notices a nitro leakage flowing directly at the sunray. Just when they notice it, the leakage explodes, leading to their tragic death. The explosion strips off some ice of the wall, which finally reveals the dead body of Wick's wife, who died 9 years ago in the mountains. Upon seeing his dead wife, Wick suddenly gets emotional as he can finally kiss her goodbye. Just then, Peter figures out that Wick blames Elliot for his wife's death. Turns out that his wife got trapped with Elliot during the expedition 9 years ago, and Wick believes that Elliot stole the medicine known as Dex from his wife, making her painfully die from edema. After the incident took place, Wick came to the rescue and saved 3 survivors, and Elliot was one of them. In an interview, Elliot tells everyone that the medicine box was lost during the expedition. However, Wick finds an empty medicine box at the site, which means that Elliot used all the medicine himself, leaving his wife to die. Wick is extremely furious, and soon Peter speculates that Wick decided to join the rescue mission to take revenge on Elliot. He warns Wick to not take any foolish steps, but Wick doesn't listen to him and leaves for the forward journey alone. That night, Peter connects with Annie through the radio. Since both of them are close to each other, they're able to get the radio signals. Annie instructs her brother to turn back because she's about to die because of edema. It seems that Annie has already accepted her eventual death. Meanwhile, the evil Elliot murders the helpless Tom so they can save more Dex. Soon after, Annie catches sight of Tom's dead body while Elliot's trying to get out of the crevice. She then angrily prevents Elliot, which causes the ice portion to fall. They can finally see more light come through the hole, but the hole's too small for them to escape. Now Elliot and Annie devise a plan to use Tom's blood to signal for their exact location. Meanwhile, Peter and the girl from his team reach the dangerous summit and finally spot the chamber. Peter carefully pours the nitro, and the nitro rightfully explodes. After that, the crevice opens up, revealing Elliot and Annie inside. Peter notices that his sister is in really bad condition and that she can barely stand, so he quickly runs to lay the rope to the chamber to pull Annie out. Peter suddenly slides down while pulling Annie, affecting the rescue. His axe can't hold any longer, but thankfully Wick arrives on time to help. As Wick comes to the chamber, Elliot gets a weapon thinking Wick would kill him. But instead of taking revenge on him, Wick attaches him to the rope. With Annie, Wick, and Elliot attached to the rope, Peter and the other girl struggle to pull even further. Suddenly, another ice part drops and Peter falls, catching Annie, who's attached to Wick and Elliot. Just then, Wick realizes that the girl alone cannot pull all of them, so he brings out his knife and cuts the rope, leading him and Elliot to fall to the death. Peter, along with his sister and the other girl, arrive safely at the camp. In the final scene, we see Annie, who's in bad condition, trying to recover. Both brother and sister have a pleasant talk, and all the differences between them are clear. At the end of the film, Peter pays his respect at a makeshift memorial for climbers who've died in the rescue operation. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like and comment down your thoughts on the movie in the comment section. And before you leave, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more movie recaps.